Hey everyone, this is Angie from Angie Andrews Inspire, and I'm so happy that you decided to join me tonight to talk about gratitude, synchronicity, and flow. We have people getting on as we speak, so I'm going to wait until about 5 after to get started. If you are already on, find yourself a nice quiet place. You may not need a pen and paper, but if you want to take notes, go ahead and grab yourself a piece of paper and a pen and maybe light a candle, grab a glass of wine, whatever you want to do to make this a little self care ritual. Go ahead and do that, and we'll get started in just a little bit. For those that just popped on, I was just saying that I'm going to wait until about 5 after to get started. Generally, it takes people a few minutes to get on. So if you're already on, go ahead and get comfortable, find yourself a quiet space, maybe grab a piece of paper and a pen, glass of wine, light a candle, whatever you want to do to make it feel like a little self-care ritual gathering here together. I'm going to wait a few more minutes here as people continue to hop on. And if anyone that's on now would not mind chatting me in the window to let me know if you can see and hear me okay, that would be greatly appreciated as well. If you're just hopping on, I'm just waiting a few minutes to let everybody get into the Google Hangout. It looks like a handful of you are already here, but I'm just waiting a few minutes to let everybody hop on. We will probably start at about 8:05. If you want to grab pen and paper, grab a glass of wine, light a candle, do whatever you want. And again, if someone wouldn't mind chatting me in the chat window just to see, to let me know if you can see me okay, if you can hear me okay, that would be appreciated. We've got about 3 minutes before we're going to go ahead and get started. So go ahead and get yourself comfy. One of you nice ladies just told me the chat was turned off, so it is turned on now, but I guess since I got that message, that means you can see and hear me. So thank you, Gail. All right, we got about 2 more minutes here and we're gonna get started. I hope everyone had a beautiful day today. Here in Vermont, we had I think it was like our first real day of spring. It was like 60 degrees, sunny, felt so good. It has been such a long winter here. We still have a bunch of snow in my yard. But in town, there's actually no snow left. So it was just a beautiful spring day here. I hope you all had a really nice day. I know I did. I got outside, I sat by the river. Just one of my favorite things to do. So it was a great day here. All right, so it's about 8:04 and looking, let me just see here. Looking at who's here, I think we probably have just about everybody. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started. And then if people as they join, I'll just interrupt what I'm saying and welcome them in and let them know what we're up to. So welcome. I hope you've made yourself comfortable. I hope that you've set aside a little quiet space to have a little time just for yourself. And again, make this sort of a little self-care ritual for your evening. Before we get started, what I like to do with every webinar I do is start by sort of gathering our energy together by taking 3 deep breaths together. So I'm going to ask everyone to go ahead and close your eyes. I will do the same, and we're going to take 3 deep breaths together. So go ahead and close your eyes and breathe in deeply through your nose and out through your mouth. And again. And one more. Okay. Doesn't that feel good? And now we're sort of all in the same space together. Our energy is pooled by doing that little exercise, which I love. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Angie, and my business is Angie Andrews Inspire. I am a radical self-care coach, a blogger, and just overall mentor to women who are looking to create transformation in their lives. My passion is helping women create that through self-care. This webinar is not about self-care. This webinar is about gratitude, synchronicity, and flow, but ultimately, all of this ties into that theme. Anytime we set aside time and energy to work on a practice that creates more ease and flow in our lives or makes us happier, more peaceful, more joyous, that is self-care. And so that's why this sort of fits in with the work that I do. And why I chose this topic tonight is because it came to me that the combination of these 3 things is so powerful and has created such a difference in my life that I wanted to share that with everybody. And I say that because I guess a year or 2 ago, when I started really engaging in self-care and changing my life and doing this work, I was not living my life from a place of gratitude, synchronicity, and flow. I would say that there was gratitude in my life. I've always been thankful for my life. I've had a very blessed life. But all of those things were not jiving in my life. And changing these things has allowed so many other things to transpire that it just seemed like an important topic to me. Why the 3 things together instead of doing a webinar on gratitude, synchronicity, or flow? Because together, they're like magic. It's super powerful when you take these 3 things and you work them together. So that's why I chose to sort of do the 3 things together. And one actually sort of leads to another. So I'm going to start by talking about gratitude. Any of you who are on, who've been on a webinar with me before, this is always a topic, always comes up. It's so important. And what I like to emphasize is I'm not talking about gratitude necessarily just the practice of the gratitude journal, which is sort of the, what most people think of when they think of practicing gratitude. I'm talking more about gratitude as a way of being, as a way of integrating it into your life. And yes, part of that is a gratitude practice, which can be a gratitude journal. But shamans have long purported that gratitude is the way to connect with your inner voice and with the divine within. And so this isn't new. This isn't, some new age information. Gratitude has been looked at as a super important piece for years. And if you read any work by shamans, gratitude will come up over and over and over again. And when I talk about it as a way of being, I'm talking about it as cultivating gratitude in your life, not just for the fun, rosy things like, my home, my car, my job, courage, anything. I'm also talking about cultivating gratitude for the not so fun things, for the shadowy, dark things that happen. That may not sound pleasant, but the fact is that everything in our lives are placed in our lives for a reason. They are all part of our journey, and they all play a role. And so being grateful for all of it really plays into that way of being, to that having it become part of who you are. I'm going to sidestep gratitude here for a minute to talk about this whole concept of, embracing the whole thing, the light and the dark. It really comes back to knowing that the universe, that God is working for you and not against you. And that is a piece of gratitude. I actually want to read you this quote. I think I may have used it to advertise the webinar, but I love this quote by Byron Katie. Life is simple. Everything happens for you, not to you. Everything happens at exactly the right moment, neither too soon nor too late. You don't have to like it. It's just easier if you do. That is sort of a quote that encompasses exactly what I'm talking about this evening. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, sometimes it's neither, but it's all placed there in perfect timing for a reason. And if we embrace it instead of fight it, life gets a little easier. We're going to talk a little bit more about how that plays into flow in a little bit. So I know I said I wanted to talk about gratitude as a way of being, but part of that is cultivating it. So for most people, what does cultivating that look like? It does look like a gratitude journal or a gratitude practice or some way of daily expressing gratitude for what we have in our lives, good and bad. So that could be a journal. That could be a prayer. That could be listing them to God or whoever is your higher power in the shower, if that's what you have time for. It could be doing it in the car. It could be part of another ritual that you have in the morning if you meditate. It can be any time, and it really could be as simple as 5 things. 5 things I'm grateful for today. 10 things I'm grateful for today. It could be 5 minutes in the morning. It could be 10 minutes in the morning. It could be at night if you're a night person. It could be both. I'll give you an example of my practice. Part of my gratitude practice, in the morning when I sit in this very corner and say my morning prayer and do a little meditation, I have a little journal. And in that journal, I do morning pages and I journal, and part of that is actually gratitude and appreciation. Each day I write a few things. But I also have a separate little journal. And in that, I write down everything that came to me the day before. That could be a free cup of coffee. That could be a refund check from my insurance company. That could be advice. That could be a hug from someone I haven't hugged from in a long time. I just make sure I write a few things down to put myself in that place, to know that I'm recognizing things that are coming to me, because as women, especially, receiving is really hard. Giving, no problem. Receiving, not so easy. So to write down every day what you're receiving and to really allow that, huge. One of my mentors, Elena Lipson, actually shared with me And I do this now when someone pays me a compliment, when someone gives me something, I say to myself or to them, depending on who it is, I see it, I allow it, I accept it, thank you. And then depending on what it's about, more please. So that's just a little fun thing that can help you with receiving and with really cultivating gratitude, is to learn to receive, to learn to accept it, receive it, say thank you. So that's what I was going to say about gratitude practice. I think gratitude practice is really important. I think that a journal is a really good way to go, especially if you like to write. If you don't like to write, like I said, just rattle off a few things in the shower, rattle a few things off in the car, whatever works for you. Just find some sort of practice and stay with it consistently. And we're going to talk about what happens when consistency falls to the wayside much later, because I know we're human and I know that's going to happen. So next I wanted to talk about synchronicity. And Carl Jung said, synchronicity is ever-present reality for those who have eyes to see it. So what does he mean by that? What he means by that is most of us aren't looking. Most of us aren't paying attention. There's synchronicity happening every day, all through our lives. Life is literally a series of synchronicities, but we can't see them if we're not looking and if we're not paying attention. And I bring synchronicity in after gratitude because gratitude is the easiest way to see synchronicity. What do I mean by that? Well, when we're grateful and we're paying attention to what's coming to us and what's being put in our path, and we're being grateful for the good and the bad, we start feeling like the universe has our back. We start feeling like things are good. Things are working for me. Things aren't working against me. And that sort of puts us in this place where we're paying more attention, where we're thinking, X happened. Oh, well, that actually worked out really well for me. And I know you all have had these little synchronicities. I think a lot of time we actually call it luck. Some people call it coincidence. Synchronicity and coincidence, kind of the same thing, but I think synchronicity is a much nicer word for seeing what the universe has put in our path that's meant to be there. So in luck, I don't really believe it's luck. I believe it's all part of the plan. So I no longer really use the word luck. I prefer synchronicity. And I'm going to look at my notes here just to make sure I stay on track, because I have a tendency to go off on a tangent because I get so excited about what I'm talking about. So when I'm talking about synchronicity, I want to talk about this shift in perception from I'm fighting life to life has my back. That's a huge piece of synchronicity, is realizing everything that happens is happening for you, not to you. And so, you're stuck behind a slow car on the highway and you're running late. You get, I know this happens to me. You get impatient, you start getting pissed off, and you're thinking, just go. And I'm going to tell you a story about that actually in a little bit that happened to me. But what if we're actually in a place of gratitude and looking for synchronicity? What if we can be thinking, maybe I needed to slow down. Maybe I was going too fast. Maybe I'm not supposed to be there yet. It's amazing, number one, how much that can change how everything feels. And number two, how much more peace that brings you. Instead of being frustrated and having road rage and being like, just go, which we all do. I still do sometimes. There's this feeling like, oh, it's okay, because this is all working out the way it's supposed to work out. So it doesn't really matter that I'm going 20 instead of 40. I'll get there when I get there, and I'm not obviously supposed to be there yet. So that's sort of the feeling that synchronicity has. I'll actually give you a little example of something that just happened to me the other day. And I think if this had happened a year or two ago, it probably wouldn't have even registered to me. But I was traveling for work, And I woke up in the morning and I was doing my morning practice. And for some reason, I kept thinking about this letter that I had written about a year ago at a live event in Los Angeles. And it was a letter I'd written to myself that I knew was going to be mailed to me a year later. And I was thinking, yeah, but I think that was July. It's too soon. I don't know why I'm thinking about it. So I just sort of let it go. That night, when I spoke to my husband on the phone, he said, "You have a letter, and it looks like it's from you." And I was like, "What do you mean?" And he was like, "It's a letter from Los Angeles addressed to you from you." And I was like, "Oh, holy shit." Like, that's why it was coming up for me in the morning. And were I not in the space that I am, focusing on gratitude and looking for synchronicity and trying to find flow in my life, that may have escaped me because I worked all day at a busy client, had lots going on, but clearly there's some synchronicity there. And that stuff happens all the time if you just stop long enough to pay attention. So what I'd actually like to do is have you take a minute or two and think in your mind about some synchronicities that have happened to you recently and write them down. And what I would love is if any of you come up with something right off the top, if you would chat it to me in the chat window and just tell me what it was. I will share it with the group, but I won't share your name, because I think it's so interesting when we're actually looking for them and we stop and we think about it, what comes up. So go ahead and take a minute or two and just write down any synchronicity that you can think of that has come up for you. And if you would, or if you're willing to, go ahead and share one in the chat window with me. I'm just going to give you a minute or two to do that. I don't think anyone's going to share. At the end, I'm actually going to share actually a couple amazing examples from my own life of gratitude, synchronicity, and flow all together in an occurrence. So if no one shares, that's fine. I'll share some in a little bit. And if you can't find one, that's okay too. Because if you weren't looking, if you weren't paying attention at the time, you may not have seen one. Okay. So hopefully somebody came up with a synchronicity. Nobody shared one, but that's okay. I know sometimes people get shy and sometimes people can't think about them on the spot. Obviously, I've spent some time thinking about this in my life today. So moving on, I want to talk about flow, because what does that mean? What does flow mean? In my mind, flow is about ease and peace. So the metaphor that I love, that I think everyone can relate to, is moving water. So for example, a river or an ocean. So if I am trying to walk in a river or in an ocean or swim, and I am going against the current, it's more energy, it's more effort, it's harder. It's not as easy. It's not flowing. If I'm swimming with the current or walking with the current, it's easier, takes less energy. I'm actually being supported by the movement of the water. That is exactly what life is like. If I decide that life is working against me, and that is my frame of mind, then I am constantly fighting life. It's taking more energy. It's making me more tired. I'm feeling like I'm always up against something. If I decide through gratitude and synchronicity in my life that life is working for me, everything is happening for me, whether it felt good or it felt bad, it's all in support of my journey. There's so much more ease and flow in life, even in the hard times. Quick example from my life, I left my job, my career of 17 years, to go work for another company. I was at that company 2.5 months when they laid me off. And I remember thinking, okay, I know I was supposed to leave and I left for a reason. So this has got to be happening for a reason. Was I devastated? Yeah, for a little while I was like, holy crap, what just happened? Like I thought I was doing what I was supposed to do, and why is this happening? When I really sat down and thought about it, I thought, wow, there's got to be a reason. You know, this is happening for a reason. And sure enough, 3 weeks later, I got a call from somebody and got a consulting job that offered me a ton more flexibility, more money, the ability to start my business much quicker. And, part of that was just accepting that I knew this was happening for a reason. I didn't fight it and I didn't get pissed off and I didn't, fly off the handle. I just decided, you know what? It's put there for a reason. And I just went with it. That is flow. That feeling that I'm being supported, that I'm being held by the universe. I mentioned earlier, God, universe, whatever your higher power is, however you view the world. For some people, it's source. For some people, it's God. For some people, it's universe. Whatever that is for you, knowing that it's holding you up and that it has your back. And even in the times that feel yucky, there's a purpose, can create so much more flow. And so that's what I mean by flow. I just mean deciding to move with life instead of against life, because when we're pushing, it's so hard. And really, truly, our paths unfold the way they unfold for a reason. God or whomever, universe's higher plan for us is much better than ours. Sometimes it doesn't feel that way, but when it all shakes out, at least in my life, I found that that's the truth. So gratitude, synchronicity, and flow. I lumped the three together. Why? Because these three things together, when you do them simultaneously, and actually one sort of leads to the other, it's like a recipe for magic. Because life feels so much more free, so much more peaceful, so much more joyful when you take gratitude. So you have appreciation for your life, and you're cultivating that each and every day in some way, whatever your way is. And there is no right way. Don't let somebody tell you there is, because everybody does things in their own way. And then you take synchronicity, this view of life, this sense that this is happening to me for a reason, and it's happening the way it's supposed to. And wow, I'm seeing all of these things that are happening the way they're supposed to happen. So examples of that, what I said before, you are, you lock your keys in your car. You're like, oh crap. Like, what am I going to do? I'm going to be late for this meeting. I'm meeting a client. Finally get it straightened out. You get in your car, you get to the meeting, you walk in, and they're like, oh, your client called. She's running 20 minutes late. That's synchronicity. That's the universe saying you were right where you needed to be. I needed you to slow down, or I needed you to take a look at this. It's all for a reason. And to get hot about it and frustrated about it doesn't really serve you. So synchronicity, looking for the support. And then flow obviously comes from gratitude and synchronicity. You cultivate gratitude, you see more synchronicity, you have more flow. So that's why I decided, and that's why I feel like these three things together are so important, because it's like this recipe for this magical thing. And if you work at it and if you cultivate it, it really can change the way your life feels on a daily basis. And then, a weekly basis, a monthly basis. That being said, this is the next thing I wanted to bring up, and I alluded to this a little bit ago. Anytime you decide that you're going to create a practice in your life and that you're going to cultivate something on a daily basis, there is going to be bumps in the road. Shit's going to hit the fan. You're going to get sick. Your kid's going to get sick. Your spouse is going to get sick. Something is going to go crazy in your life, and you're going to fall off the practice wagon. Happens to everybody at some time or another. What I wanted to say, and anyone who's listened to me speak before, I say this all the time: you need to let it happen, and you need to love yourself through it. Brene Brown actually says, owning our journey and loving ourselves through it is probably the most courageous thing we'll ever do. So when you fall off the wagon, love yourself through it. Be kind, be gentle, let it happen. It may be a day, maybe days, maybe weeks, maybe months. It's hard to say, and it depends on your circumstances. The fact of the matter is, it's happening, accept it, but then at some point when you're ready, jump back on. It's never too late to get started again. And maybe even start back a little bit before you're ready. But don't beat yourself up about not doing it, because that is like completely negating all of what we just talked about if you can't grant yourself the time that you need. That comes back to self-care, right? Self-love. Speak to yourself and act with yourself the way you would your best friend, your husband, your children. If they said to you, "Oh, I said I'd work out every day this week. I just can't do it," would you be like, "You suck. Like, you need to get to..." No, you would say, "You know what? Happens to everybody. They fall off the wagon. Just get back to it when you're ready to get back to it." So I encourage you to give yourself some space for that to happen. And I will tell you, you will know right away when you've fallen off the wagon, because your whole outlook can change like that. Example from my own life again. And it's funny because I can give you examples for a million examples for everything I teach when I'm doing these webinars, because we teach what we've come to learn. And the more I do this, the more that is absolutely the truth. Example from my own life. This past week, probably the last 3 or 4 days, I haven't done my gratitude practice. I haven't even sat in my corner in the morning. I did today, but prior to that, I haven't even sat in the corner and done my thing. And my view got all whacked out. Started doubting myself, started doubting what's going on, started getting anxious about things that there's no need to be anxious about right now. And it finally struck me today when I was out in the woods by myself, walking around, listening to the stream, that I hadn't done my practice. I haven't been being grateful. I haven't been feeling flow. I just sort of fell out. So this morning, just decided I'm getting back in. Sat in my corner and did my thing. Didn't beat myself up. Just got back on the horse. So I really want to make sure to mention that, because I know for a lot of women especially, we are, we decide we're going to do something. We're committed to it. We think, "Oh, I got to do it." And then when we don't, we get hard on ourselves. Don't get hard on yourselves. Everybody has, life is not this. Nobody's life is this. Life is this all the time. Up and down, up and down, up and down. So another reason that this gratitude, synchronicity, and flow is so important, because it allows us to weather this instead of feeling like we're doing this and then this and that's it. Okay. So I wanted to put that warning out there because I think that is super important. So I wanted to share a couple examples from my own life of how all of this has fit together a few times for me. And then after that, I'm going to challenge you a little bit to do. Oh, hang on. Someone just wrote something. Yeah. So someone just mentioned it, falling off the horse. Something happened at work, set them off, put them on this, the path to thinking everything is this. But I'm guessing she's getting back up on the horse because she realized she fell off the horse. So thank you so much for sharing. So I'm going to give you these couple examples, and then I'm going to give you a little challenge to work on your own. So this first example actually is an example of synchronicity, gratitude, flow, and manifestation. So this happened, I don't know, about a year ago, and I was in Philadelphia for work, and I was on my way home. So I got to the airport, and I had done my morning practice. I had been very much in my practice. I was very much in a place of gratitude, synchronicity, and flow. Really looking for it in my life and really just embracing whatever happened. It didn't matter what it was. I get to the airport, I check in. When I get my boarding pass, I see that I have no seat assignment. And I think, oh, great, that's never good because they overbook flights, all of them now. I get to the gate and I show it to the gate attendant, and she said, you don't have a seat assignment. The flight is overbooked. So you're being bumped from the flight. And I was like, okay, what do I do? And she said, well, you're going to have to talk to someone. She was not pleasant at all. You're going to have to talk to someone at customer service about getting rerouted, and they'll take care of you. And I was like, okay. And I very consciously was like, okay, it's happening for a reason. You weren't meant to be on the flight. Go talk to the customer service rep. So I go to the customer service desk. I get the nicest gentleman ever. And he's like, okay, let me find you another way home. I can't get you home on a direct flight, but I can get you home through DCA later today. Instead of getting home at like 3 p.m, you're going to be home at like midnight, which meant I was going to be in both airports for quite some time. And I was like, okay, well, at least I'm going to get home. That's fine. And then he said, but we owe you money for the seat on the other flight that we overbooked. Now, I fly for work all the time. No one has ever offered me money when I've been bumped from a flight. And he proceeded to tell me that he was going to write me a check for $750 for the bumped flight. So not only was I rebooked and able to get home the same day, but he then handed me a check for $750. And consequently, I had been looking at buying a package with my life coach and had no idea where I was going to get the $700 to pay for the package. And it was put in my hand that day. Then, on top of that, I took the flight to DCA, and I was supposed to be in DCA for 2.5 hours. I got off the plane. I looked up, and on the monitor, there was a flight to Burlington that was leaving in like 15 minutes at the gate next door. So I popped next door, and I said, I'm supposed to be on this flight 2 or 3 hours later. Could I get a seat on this flight? And she said, yeah, sure, there's a seat on the flight. She gave me a new boarding pass. I got on the plane, and instead of getting home at midnight, I was home at like 8 or 9 o'clock. All of this time, not once did I question what was going on. Not once did I fight it. The whole time I was like, like this is happening for a reason. I mean, I've been away from my family for a week. Yes, I really wanted to get home. But I just was so in that space, and everything unfolded so beautifully. It was the perfect example of gratitude, synchronicity, and flow. And I've not had, an experience like with that many synchronicities and, that again, I've had so many little ones. I can't even tell you. And the only other one I want to tell you about, because this happens to everybody, and I just want you to think about this the next time this is happening to you. Driving to Burlington to meet my friend for lunch. It's about an hour from my house on the highway. Get stuck behind someone going really slow. And I'm thinking, I'm going to be late for lunch. I'm going to be late to meet Kara. She's going to be standing there waiting for me. And then it clicks. And I think, And I do this all the time now. People probably think I'm crazy, but I looked up and I was like, okay, I'll slow down. Clearly, I'm supposed to slow down. So I'll just let it be. So, take my time to get there. Actually, pretty much pull up in downtown Burlington on time. And parking in Burlington is a nightmare. It's very tight. Literally pull up in front of the restaurant in the parking spot, dead in front of the door, is wide open. I pull in. I'm right on time. Kara's just walking in the door. Had I not had that frame of mind, had I not stopped, I would have been pissed off. I would have been cranky. I would have been stressed out. I probably would have sped. I might have gotten a ticket. And instead, I just embraced what was and just decided, okay, I know I'm being supported. I know this is happening for a reason. I'm just going to let it be. And boom, parking spot right in front of the door. And I could give you a million examples. I'm not going to, it's 20 of 9. I wanted to be wrapped up in about 10 minutes. So I'm not going to spend my time giving you all these examples. But all it takes is some thought and some time and some practice. And all of these things that stress us out during the day, that make us feel like life is beating us up, can totally be turned around. So I had one question on the chat. So let me just look. With devastating loss of an adult child, how do we get back to a place of gratitude and sensing synchronicity in life? That's a good question. And first of all, losing an adult child, obviously that's, not the natural order of things. No parent ever wants to lose their child. And I can't even imagine as a mother now how devastating that would be. And so I guess my answer to that would be, one, there's a healing period there. And until that healing period happens, it would be really hard to find gratitude and synchronicity. However, I think if prior to that loss, there had been a sense of gratitude and synchronicity in knowing that you were supported in a sense of faith, that would obviously help with the healing process. But no one right after the loss of a child is going to feel gratitude and synchronicity. I think that that's a matter of faith, what your relationship is with God, what your relationship is with yourself, time, letting that wound heal, and really doing some work, really working to connect back to, God, universe, whatever it is for that person, and really start to understand, as hard as it is, that everything happens for a reason. It's all part of the journey. And yes, it is not pleasant. And yes, it is devastating, but it was part of your story. And again, what Brene Brown said, owning that story, loving yourself through it, supporting yourself through it, is the most courageous thing we'll ever do. And so that really would be my answer is, faith, time, healing, and then doing the work to get back to, starting with gratitude for, obviously you're not going to start with gratitude for the loss of your child. You're going to start with gratitude for a warm, sunny day, my walk in the woods, my other child, my husband, my life, my, things around you that you can start holding on to and having gratitude for, and then building that sense of gratitude and then moving that forward is what I would say. I'm not a grief expert. But from what I've learned and from what I've spoken with clients about, that would be my thought on that. If anyone else, by the way, has any questions or wants to bring up a point, or has, there's something that I covered that you want me to go back to and talk about a little more, by all means, just throw it up in the chat window. I would be happy to do that. Lastly, I wanted to throw out a little, I guess, homework for everyone on the call. I want you to do a little experiment and really put some of these principles to use in your life, to start looking and trying to find the synchronicities, and to start cultivating gratitude in whatever way works for you. I have found sometimes that, doing it with a friend or a partner, my husband and I, we have not been doing this recently, but we used to lay down in bed at night, and the last thing we would do before we went to sleep was each say 5 or 10 things that we were grateful for. Making it something that you do with somebody could make it an easy way to start doing the work. But I wanted to challenge you to start putting these principles to work, to really start seeing if you can sense more ease and flow in your life if you're using these principles. And then start noticing. So, start the gratitude practice, start looking for the synchronicity, start trying to feel the flow, and then really start noticing these things. You're stuck behind someone in traffic. You get there and you realize, oh, well, I didn't need to be here yet anyway. Or you lock yourself out of your car, you finally get in your car, you're driving down the highway, and there's an accident right before you get there. Oh, I was supposed to slow down. I wasn't supposed to be here yet because this was not my accident to have. Once you've done a little bit of the gratitude, a little bit of the synchronicity, start looking for that stuff. Start paying attention. Even start writing it down, and see if you can start, by doing that, start creating more of that flow, and start being able to be in your car realizing, oh, yeah, that wasn't meant for me, or this was meant for me, or I wasn't supposed to be there yet. Because I promise you that if you do start looking and you do start putting all these principles to work, there's no way you're going to miss it, because life really is a long series of synchronicities. You just have to be open to seeing them. Like Carl Jung said, you just have to have, your eyes open and be paying attention in order to see them, and not everybody does. And so give it a try. And I would love if you do, if you would email me. It's Angie at angieandrewsinspire.com, and let me know how it went and what you found, and if it created more flow or peace in your life, or if you didn't see any difference. That would be amazing feedback for me, because I know that this in my life has made such a big difference. Obviously, I don't know if it's going to make as big a difference in your life, and so your feedback would be greatly appreciated. I also wanted to leave you with another quote, and I actually did use this one in advertising the webinar, so it probably is a repeat, but it says, in our daily lives, we must see that it is not happiness that makes us grateful, but gratefulness that makes us happy. And that's Albert Clark. I love that quote because it's so true. I think we're looking, we're looking for happiness all the time. And it's like this elusive thing. And really, it starts with gratitude. The shamans hit the nail on the head when they said that this is like super important work, because you can't have happiness without appreciation and gratitude. And so starting there is such an important thing. And I encourage you to do in whatever way feels comfortable to you, to start cultivating more gratitude in your life and see what that brings up for you. Anybody has any questions, now would be the time to answer them, because I'm actually going to wrap up. I did want to mention that some of you may know this, but I've created a private Facebook community, and I'm sharing all kinds of cool stuff there, and women are throwing out questions and concerns about self-care. The conversation's actually been pretty interesting, though I've had to do a little prodding to get people to share when they do. It's been a beautiful thing, and everything I run into that I find inspiring, um, that has to do with self-care, self-love, connection, I'm putting in there. And I would love to have you join my Facebook community. If you want to do that, you can find it on Facebook. Um, if you can't find it, by all means, contact me at my email and I can help you find it. Um, and other than that, on my website has recently been revamped, and it's going to be revamped even further. I'm going to be adding some new coaching packages on there. And for those of you that are local, I'm actually going to be doing some workshops in May and June with a Kundalini yoga instructor friend of mine, around self-care. They're going to be 2 to 2.5 hour workshops, a series of 3. And she's an amazing teacher, and Kundalini yoga is an amazing practice. And I hope that some of you will join us, because I think it's going to be so much fun. And other than that, I am still working on creating a 6-week course, which will be available online, and you'll all know about that when it comes about. So it doesn't look like anyone had questions. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap up, and I'm going to say thank you so much for coming and joining me. And I hope that you found the information to be helpful. And if you want to follow my work, my blog, by all means, visit me on my website, which is angieandrewsinspire.com. And I wish you all a wonderful night. And as I always say, you are enough and you are loved. And hopefully I'll see you next time.